Continuing from the previous episode 1760. Sir Xiaoyan is really talented. Seeing Xiaoyan's supreme posture, all the strong people present also looked at each other in dismay. Because at this moment, the entire mysterious spirit continent has been completely controlled by Queen Medusa, and the 1,000-strong people brought back by Xiaoyan are not something they can compete with. Up to now, they no longer have the right to choose, and looking at Xiaoyan's tyrannical attitude, if he disagrees, he may have to find his own way. If you don't agree, then leave Zhan Santian. After all, if it wasn't for the fact that these guys were born and raised in Xuanxin's sect, Xiaoyan probably wouldn't let them sit here safely. After all, the strength of these sects was very important to Xiaoyan. Without much substantial help, my lord, we have lost our way. Our two sects agree with your approach. Seeing Xiaoyan's arrogant attitude, one man and one woman were unable to speak. It's just a class of warriors, and now it seems that they are very wrong. Huo Yi, the task of integrating the forces in the past few days will be handed over to you. Remember that the foundation of each sect should not be shaken, and the newly established forces are clearly divided into their respective parts. Battle, defense, and logistical supplies are divided according to their respective sects. In addition, the rewards and punishments are fair and strict. Quote. Seeing the silence in the audience, Xiaoyan opened his mouth and said, one after another quite clear rules emerged from Xiaoyan's mouth. This guy, I can't see that he has a second chance. But won't there be any sequelae of such coercion? Seeing Xiaoyan's thunderous means, these shocked fellows were unable to refute. Mu Yingying whispered. Obviously she also found that some guys were convinced on the surface, but a little resentful inside. Don't worry, convince people with virtue. Don't forget this guy's identity as a pharmacist. Kai Lin smiled. She obviously knew Xiaoyan's character and methods very well. Since now a new force has been integrated, I will not treat you badly. In a short time, you will all get a fighting immortal pill. Seeing that some of the strong people present were slightly unconvinced, Xiaoyan immediately smiled. He naturally expected this step, so he wouldn't. Fighting immortal pill? Hearing Xiaoyan's words, the strong man present couldn't help but said with red eyes. Fighting immortal pill, this is not comparable to Do Di pill, and most of these guys are 2-star Dushan perfection. Once you have Do immortal pill, you will be able to step into 3-star. This move of Xiaoyan has undoubtedly won the hearts and minds of many strong people. Everything is according to what the adults said. For a time, the strong people present nodded and smiled, and at this moment, the hostility in their hearts disappeared without a trace. Since a new faction is going to be established, then there must be a strong name, right? After some restlessness, no one was against Xiaoyan. Among them, these guys had already designated Xiaoyan as the ruler of the new force, and Fen Tian took the lead. Road, why don't you just call it Wan Wo Yu? I think we will definitely not be limited to this in the future. Elder Huiyan walked out slightly and said with a smile, You really have enough ambition. Xiaoyan nodded lightly when he heard the words. What can be called a domain? At least it is a region that governs hundreds of planes. Although there is only one continent of Xuanling Continent, but in the future, who is right? Go! With such an ugly name, 10,000 fire territory, why not call it the Land of Fire? Land of Fire? Purgatory Hall Master, you haven't woken up yet, such an old-fashioned name. For a while, the entire hall became full of chatter. It's really a headache. Xiaoyan looked at this scene, and his head suddenly became a little big. This kind of thing is obviously the most troublesome. I think it's better to call it Endless Fire Territory. After the commotion continued for a while, Kai Lin nodded slightly and said, Endless Fire Territory? Xiaoyan murmured, but these words seemed to contain some kind of magic power, shaking his heart, and even the Amber Rock Soul Fire sent out a burst of joy. Obviously he liked this name very much. Endless Fire Territory? Good name, Her Majesty is really smart. As Kalin spoke, the place became quiet. In that case, let's call it Endless Fire Territory. Integrate all the sect forces in Xuanxin and divide them into specific details. Xuanling Continent will be our initial base. Xiaoyan laughed slowly, and his voice was filled with a rare gratification. The Endless Fire Territory is really in line with Xiaoyan. Okay, everyone, let's go down separately. I'm afraid I've been busy recently, and the integration is going to trouble you all. After some discussion, Xiao Yan dismissed everyone. The crowd agreed and dispersed gently. With Xiao Yan's reassurance of fighting the immortal pill, they would naturally cooperate very strongly. Endless Fire Territory. You will be the two mistresses of Endless Fire Territory in the future. Looking at Kaylin and Mu Yingying, Xiao Yan also smiled happily. Let's go down and collect some materials first. When I refined the Dushan pill in the past few days, I'm afraid I need to travel far away. Xiao Yan sat quietly on the seat, rubbed his temples with his palms, and said softly. Is 10 enough? Kaylin asked tentatively. 20, let's keep some for you to spare. Xiao Yan said with a smile. Yep, quote. As soon as the words fell, they went back to their own business. Since this day, the heads of the various super sects in Xuanchen have joined forces to form the Endless Fire Territory. With these veterans, the leadership of the forces turned out to be quite smooth to completely integrate the countless forces, and the overall strength of the Endless Fire Territory was also greatly improved. And the Mountain of Mysterious Spirit has also become the base camp of the Endless Fire Territory. For a time, this new force was actually widely circulated in the Btth2 continent. And even though Xuanling Continent is the weakest of the 4 continents of Btth Continent, with the help of the many powerhouses brought by Xiao Yan, it has directly surpassed Haohai Continent and became the 3rd-ranked continent. As for the continent above this, only Tianxing Continent and Douyin Continent where the 8 ancient clans existed. In the past few days, Kaylin and Mu Yingying have personally traveled to the major auction pharmacies in Xuanchen Sansan to collect and refine the medicinal materials for Xiao Yan. But in the end, he collected 20 medicinal herbs and handed them over to Xiao Yan. I refined the Do Xian Dan in retreat, so as to completely appease their state of mind. After Xiao Yan got the medicinal materials, he also made some corrections with the 2 Kaylin girls, and then stepped into the retreat stone room, and the Endless Fire Territory has the Queen's posture like Kaylin, and the many top managements of the 10,000 Fire Sect also presented a thriving scene. At the beginning of the birth of the Endless Fire Territory, it came from this, and after a long time, a catastrophe came quietly, and it was this catastrophe against the Endless Fire Territory that resounded the reputation of the Endless Fire Territory throughout the Great Thousand World. Continuing from the previous episode 1761. I haven't refined medicine pills for a long time. I'm afraid I'm a little unfamiliar. Sitting quietly in the stone room, Xiao Yan smiled bitterly. The pharmacist competed in this kind of competition, so his alchemy skills stagnated for a while. However, Xiao Yan's journey to the ghost world has skyrocketed in his soul power, and his refining skills have also greatly improved, but Xiao Yan has never discovered it. Dushan pill can increase the strength of a 4-star Dushan and below by 1 star, but one person can only take one in a lifetime. Immortal rank 5 grade Earth grade medicinal pill. Xiao Yan sat on the futon in the stone room, slowly holding a rather delicate scroll in his palm, and muttered. Although the prescription for Do Xian pill is precious, the owner of Medicine Valley was lucky enough to get a roll of engraving, and now it is naturally sent to Xiao Yan willingly, and all the elixir needed to make Do Xian pill have been collected and everything is ready. I only owe the east wind. I remember the previous pharmacist technique, still staying at the 4th grade immortal rank. It seems that the immortal pharmacist has to overcome difficulties every time he advances. This immortal rank 5th rank fighting elixir. After buying a few medicinal herbs for Naji and the scroll of the palm fight, Xiao Yan was in trouble for a while. Just when Xiao Yan hesitated, a figure slowly emerged from Xiao Yan's soul realm. Xiao Lei? Xiao Yan couldn't help but wonder when he looked at this figure that looked exactly like him. Xiao Lei naturally possesses intelligence, but all actions are in accordance with his own orders. Now Xiao Lei is acting like this, which makes Xiao Yan quite puzzled. Don't be suspicious. After you entered the ghost world, your alchemist skills have indeed reached the 4th grade immortal rank, but your soul power has skyrocketed, surpassing the category of the 4th immortal rank and stepping into the 5th immortal rank. The difficulties that the immortal rank 5 rank alchemist will face, with me here, it is naturally quite easy to get over it. So now you are also a genuine pharmacist of the 5th rank of immortal rank, but you just don't know if you can refine this immortal fighting pill. Xiao Lei explained to Xiao Yan intermittently. It seems that the soul power in the later stage of Tai Shu is really not empty. Since that's the case, let's get started. 20 immortal fighting pills. I'm afraid it will take several months. Xiao Yan smiled bitterly. Obviously refining the pills is quite time-consuming, let alone refining many pills with such great fanfare. Let's start. Since I am one with you, I can also refine it with you. Xiao Lei laughed. It seems that in the future, you will become a good helper. Xiao Yan said with a smile. After a while, Xiao Yan and Xiao Lei sat opposite each other, calmly conditioning their breaths. After all, refining the Dushan pill is not a child's play, and it is natural to go all out. Let's get started. Xiao Yan snorted coldly, and immediately took the lead. He knew that since Xiao Lei made a living from him, he would naturally only be able to refine the Do Xian pill when he succeeded in refining it. The power is the same. Battle Immortal pill needs materials: Feng Xuanjing, Jushu Marrow Jade, Scale Powder. Let's refine Feng Xuanjing first. The other two medicinal materials are quite easy. With an idea in his mind, he flicked his finger on the ring finger in front of him, and immediately a blood-red crystal block like an agate slowly swelled, slowly floating in front of Xiao Yan. Fire! Without any hesitation, within Xiao Yan's body, the amber rock soul fire from the fusion of the four-color holy flames filled the air, raising the temperature of the entire stone chamber suddenly, and after the smooth breath, it was directly wrapped around the Feng Xuanjing. Try to melt it completely. Feng Xuanjing can be said to be a special crystal with the highest level of sturdiness in the Great Thousand World. Although it contains extremely majestic heaven and earth energy, that layer of blood-colored crystal is fast. Not possible. Tear it off. But as Xiao Yan's four-color holy flames were baked, the red crystal actually made a subtle sound. It was obvious that the holy flame's restraint on it was quite tyrannical, and it would not be long before it would be completely broken. Next is the 9 Void Marrow Jade. This is the essence of the immortal fighting pill. Boom! A trace of soul power was scattered to control the amber rock's soul fire. In order to prevent its power from spreading out, a trace of power was scattered, controlling the holy flame, and heading towards the second group of medicinal materials. Crash! Jushu Marrow Jade is like a wicker, and its whole body is green. It has just been wrapped around it, and then it trembles. It is obviously slowly melting. Its green energy liquid also contains a power that is enough to make any 3-star Do Shandu is jealous of the power. Finally, there is Scale Powder. This thing can neutralize the violent aura of these medicinal materials with some auxiliary medicines. Otherwise, it will only end in failure. With 1 mind and 3 uses, the 3 core medicinal materials were directly refined. Refining medicinal pills is naturally quite time-consuming, especially for such high-level medicinal pills. The time required is naturally not short. Time is like a white horse passing by, and it will be 20 days. These days, Xiao Yan has been sitting quietly. If Xiao Lei hadn't been able to clearly perceive the 3 batches of medicinal materials in front of him gradually melting, he would have thought that Xiao Yan had fallen asleep. Generally, I am afraid that this guy's refining skills have already reached the pinnacle of the 5th rank of the immortal rank and the earth rank, and stepping into the heavenly rank is just around the corner. Seeing Xiao Yan's sharp technique, Xiao Lei said with a smile. It's not broken at this time. When will it be? Break it for me. After 3 days, when the 3 groups of medicinal materials were completely baked by the holy flame, the cracks were quite obvious. Xiao Yan shouted loudly, and immediately 2 majestic groups of blood-red liquid and emerald-green liquid appeared. And a pool of colorful powder for neutralization slowly appeared, and Xiao Yan roared suddenly. It's melted. Xiao Lei couldn't help muttering. The next step is the most difficult step, Rongdan. Crash! The blood-colored liquid and the emerald-green liquid just touched, like 2 extremely restless bombs, terrifying rejection and depression, swept out directly. Is it going to explode? Seeing Xiao Yan being indifferent, Xiao Lei couldn't help but hesitate. Go! Seeing that the 2 groups of liquid were repelling like an enemy, the colorful powder in Xiao Yan's hands gently waved, and the restless power of the 2 suddenly became quiet. Wrong! Looking at the 2 groups of core liquid that had been quiet for a while, Xiao Yan didn't hesitate. His hands suddenly clasped together, and the dazzling soul power slanted out like spring water, and immediately condensed it directly and turned it into a pill. Good method. Taking advantage of such a short time, it turned out to be a complete compression and fusion of the power of all the medicinal materials. The soul power required by these methods is not cheap. A pharmacist at the 5th grade immortal rank really deserves his reputation. Seeing Xiao Yan's actions, Xiao Lei smiled slowly. Boom! In an instant, a ferocious blood-colored thundercloud emerged from the sky above the stone room, and the heart-pounding fluctuations contained in it were like playing a family to Xiao Lei. Fortunately not to be disgraced. The next step is to refine in large quantities. After dozens of minutes, Xiao Lei devoured all the pills, and immediately after fighting the immortal pill, the real refining, Xiao Yan also said with satisfaction. Let's start, at least half a year or more than a year. As soon as the words fell, the two also began to batch refine Do Xian Dan, and for a while, the third layer of the 9-story spiritual palace in Xiao Yan's body also became deeper. It even spreads vaguely towards the 4th floor, and once you step into the 4th floor spiritual palace, you will break through the soul of the void realm and step into the next extremely tyrannical soul realm. Continuing from the previous episode 1762. As time passes, it will be October. In October, the Xuanling Continent was in an orderly manner with its original order, and even because of the news of the establishment of the Endless Fire Territory, many troublemakers came here one after another, but these guys are all nameless. The younger generation was directly suppressed by Kalen for a while, and the fame of Endless Fire Territory also spread slightly. In the Endless Fire Territory, countless forces were integrated and divided by their integration at a time. Among them, the Medicine Hall, which is responsible for refining medicine pills, and the Casting Warehouse, which is responsible for forging weapons, and many other detailed departments work together, making the entire force a leader. Presented in a thriving state. It is also in the manor on the top of the mountain of Xuanling Mountain, in the pond in the back garden. When you retreated this time, these things happened in the Endless Fire Territory. Kalen and Mu Yingying sat quietly in it. Xiao Yan's figure also appeared on the pond pavilion. Kalen quietly for several months the major events that have happened since then explained to Xiao Yan one by one. It seems that the Endless Fire Territory still has a long way to go. Xiao Yan handed over all the refining pills to Kalen for distribution, and immediately muttered. Xiao Yan knew about Kalen's methods, and she was quite authoritative in the first place. It would be better for her to come forward in many matters. Now, with Kalen explaining the current situation of the Endless Fire Territory to Xiao Yan analyzed. Regarding the secrets of the Xiao clan, I am afraid that only the core circle of Btth2 Continent and Douyin Continent can detect some clues. Seeing Xiao Yan's expression of hesitating to speak, Kai Lin's eyes also flickered, and the eyes appeared. A touch of worry. Compared with the Xuanling Continent, Douyin Continent is undoubtedly much more tyrannical. Although it is not as strong as Li Soul Realm, it is also a place where talents gather. Even if there is Endless Fire Realm as the back, it is still not enough. Don't worry, leave the rest to me. Xiao Yan comforted. What are you going to do next? Seeing Xiao Yan as if he had already made up his mind, Kai Lin asked. I want to go to the appointment, the 100-year appointment. The forces behind the Xiao clan guardian should know a lot. Looking at the quiet Mu Yingying and Kalen, Xiao Yan said. I think it's too early for this. Kai Lin heard the words, but shook her head undeniably. Xiao Yan naturally did not hide the two of them about such a thing as a 100-year appointment. What do you say? Xiao Yan also calmed down and listened carefully, because Xiao Yan always felt that going to the appointment at this time seemed to have a lot of concerns. There are 4 continents in Duty Continent, and Xuanling Continent is only at the bottom of the ranking. Although sometimes it can squeeze into the top 3, it is also the last existence in the ranking. Whether it is strength or resources, it is quite scarce. And the destination of your 100-year contract, according to the information I have obtained, I'm afraid it is still related to Douyin Continent. Douyin Continent is full of geniuses, and even the 7 ancient clans stand. If there is not enough power and strength to support, I'm afraid. After all, you can't just think about yourself. Kai Lin said rather gently, and her voice turned out to be tender at the end. Obviously, the last words were for their daughters. Then what do you say? What should I do now? Xiao Yan nodded secretly when he heard it. Now that the 100-year appointment is in front of the demon world, it is naturally difficult to choose. On a mission to Tianxing Continent. There is just a holy flame there, an immortal flame, and with the immortal fire in your body, I'm afraid there will be some incredible scenes. And if our Endless Fire Territory can nibble away or get the support of the 2 continents, Tianxing Continent and Haohai Continent, even if we face the top forces of Douyin Continent, we still have a certain strength. Kalin said slowly. Tianxing Continent. Forgetting the end of the world. Immortal Emperor, immortal flame. Xiao Yan nodded lightly and immediately thought in his heart. In the days when you were gone, wouldn't you think that the entire Xuanling continent could be so prosperous just by relying on me? Among them, the help of Tianxing Continent is indispensable, and they have supported us in terms of resources and force, so this Tianxing Continent, you have to go to Tianxing Continent. After all, it seems that there are some grand events in the Star Continent today. Kai Lin said. So that's the case. Xiao Yan said with relief. No wonder some of the immortal fighting powerhouses here have a vaguely unfamiliar aura. It turned out that they were sent by the Tianxing Continent, but they were able to send so many powerhouses and give them a lot. Resources, which is enough to explain the fertility of the Tianxing Continent. Then let's go to Tianxing Continent first. But it seems that our Xuanling Continent and Tianxing Continent don't have any deep friendship. Why are they doing this? Xiao Yan asked as if he had thought of something. Fenxian Pavilion, Qinxin, do you still remember? Kalin said lightly. Remember, a very powerful woman. Xiao Yan nodded. She is a member of the royal family of Tianxing Continent. Kalin said lightly. I see. Xiao Yan felt relieved upon hearing this. As for the specific situation, we'll talk about it after tomorrow's Star Continent arrives. After a while, seeing Xiao Yan's relieved expression, Kai Lin also pretended to be mysterious. Okay. Xiao Yan smiled. Unknowingly, it's almost dusk, the two ladies should rest early. Xiao Yan said with a smile after finishing speaking. Cough cough. After talking about the business, Mu Yingying and Kai Lin looked at each other and quickly fled here, leaving no chance for Xiao Yan, only Xiao Yan who was standing there staring blankly. It's sleeping in the woodshed again. Xiao Yan said with a black line on his head was speechless all night, and the next day. On this day, the entire Xuanling mountain was filled with an extremely quiet aura, as if it was welcoming some character. Hundreds of stone steps at the foot of Xuanling Mountain. My lord, the mountain of mysterious spirit is here, and Queen Medusa is standing in the manor on the top of the mountain. Do you need to invite someone to report it? At this time, 6 strong men surrounded a handsome man riding a white horse. Respect Road. The white horseman has a rather classical elegance, as if he is not a resident of the Xuanling Continent, and even the words displayed between his gestures and gestures are like a real politician. No need, let's go up, just to see and appreciate the scenery of Xuanling Mountain. After all, it is completely different from our Tianxing Continent. It is also very good to experience more exotic customs. The handsome man dismounted, waved his hands, and looking at this rather majestic and huge mountain range. I immediately walked towards the steps. By the way, give me some respect. Don't forget the purpose of our trip. If anyone messes up our purpose, don't blame this king for turning his face. For a while, the handsome man turned his head slowly and instructed a few people behind him. The sound is like a surging river, shaking everyone's heart, and this kind of strength, vaguely, has reached the 4-star fighting fairy. Tianxing Continent sent a 4-star fighting immortal powerhouse to lead the team, and they did not know why they came to Xuanling Continent. Continuing from the previous episode 1763, 4 stars fighting immortals. In the hall, there were only Xiao Yan, Kalin, Mu Yingying, Huo Yi Huiyan, and Xiao Yan sat in the first place and muttered slowly. Returning to the domain master, the one who is now representing the Star Continent is Lin Qingwen. The leader is Lin Qingwen. He is a royal family in the Star Continent. Although his seniority is far away, he is also a beloved county king. A guard whispered. Pushing the door out, he spoke to Xiao Yan. Understood. Let's go, Xiao Yan said softly. Lin Qingwen. This guy can be regarded as a guy with a good reputation among the royal family of the Forest family, but I don't know the meaning of going here this time. Kai Lin nodded and said, I'll go out and have a look. Xiao Yan's voice just fell, and he immediately left the hall and headed towards the mountain of profound spirit. Only by contacting as an ordinary person can he discover some things that are difficult for ordinary people to detect. Sir. At this time, Lin Qingwen and a few entourages slowly climbed the stone steps from the foot of the mountain towards the manor on the top of the mountain. It's really a place with good scenery. Lin Qingwen's slender body looked away, looking at the rather gorgeous Xuanling mountain range, and smiled. Although the spiritual energy of heaven and earth is quite lacking here, the scenery here is unmatched by Tianxing Continent. Several In an instant, a man with a rather plain complexion trotted up the stone steps, came to beside them, and said with a smile, "No need." Seeing this strange man who appeared suddenly and seemed to be somewhat enthusiastic, the entourage guards beside Lin Qingwen couldn't help showing a hint of vigilance. "This little brother, are you also here to pay homage to Lord Xiaoyan and Her Majesty Queen Medusa?" Lin Qingwen moved slightly, came to the strange man, and asked. "I don't know why, but this strange man has a looming and rather tyrannical aura on his body, and that aura is even more tyrannical than his own, but unfortunately it is so well concealed that it is extremely difficult for ordinary people to discover." "Yeah, what are you doing here? Looking at your attire and tone, you don't seem to be from our Xuanling continent?" The strange man glanced at them. "This strange man is naturally Xiaoyan Chao Zhuang. Little brother really has extraordinary eyesight. We came here because of this, and wanted to meet the rumored Queen Medusa." Lin Qingwen smiled. "Her Majesty Queen Medusa? Her Majesty Queen Medusa has a lot of time, but not everyone can see it. However, there is a statue of the Queen on the top of the mountain, so it's a worthwhile visit to visit." The strange man smiled. "Little brother is right. If that's the case, then don't bother." The voice just fell and the two parted ways. "Sir, that guy just now?" Xiaoyan had just left, and the guard beside Lin Qingwen suddenly asked cautiously. "Don't worry, this is the Xuanling continent, not the Heavenly Star continent where we are cheating." Lin Qingwen smiled casually. "There seems to be some weird amulet on this guy." Xiaoyan looked at Lin Qingwen and the others who took the lead in climbing up and disappeared together. After a while, in the manor on the top of Xuanling Mountain. Bump! With a sound, the hall door was pushed open by some attendants. My subordinate, Lin Qingwen from the Star Continent, came to discuss important matters on the order of the princess. Lin Qingwen did not bring his entourage, but went to the hall alone, because he knew that this was out of basic etiquette, and he was also very polite. "I want to see what the glory of the Xuanling continent, which has won the praise of the princess." "Brother Lin is very polite, please take your seat." At this time, Xiaoyan sat in the first place and smiled. "Presumably this is Lord Xiaoyan, right? The strength at such an age is to reach a state of ecstasy, which really makes me ashamed. Queen Medusa is also a powerful person with a fierce reputation." Lin Qingwen admired the expressions of Xiaoyan and Queen Medusa, adding the looming terrifying aura. "Brother Lin, you're welcome. The Star Continent has been a fertile land of energy since ancient times. I don't know what's going on this time, so let's talk about business." Xiaoyan said softly. Hee, since Lord Xiaoyan has spoken, then it is better to be respectful than to obey. I'm here this time mainly for the life of the princess and to get the full support of the Endless Fire Territory." Lin Qingwen said politely, with a very solemn expression. "Oh, princess? Get the support of our Endless Fire Territory?" Xiaoyan heard this, but he was a little puzzled. The princess was fortunate enough to practice in the Burning Incense Pavilion. "Her name is Tianxing." Lin Qingwen seemed to have anticipated Xiaoyan's doubts and explained. "Tianxing Continent, is there something wrong?" Xiaoyan couldn't help asking. "Tianxing Continent, the royal election is imminent. The three most qualified candidates, including the princess, are now attracting backers. The princess is not very friendly now. If they can get the support of Endless Fire Territory, the election will be successful." Lin Qingwen said. "Is that so?" At this time, Xiaoyan suddenly laughed. Ever since the princess returned from her studies, she has always been thinking about the Xuanling continent, so even if she was opposed by many members of the royal family, the princess still gave the Xuanling continent a lot of precious cultivation resources and force. Lin Qingwen looked Xiaoyan and Queen Medusa said solemnly, "We know that the princess takes care of our Xuanling continent, and I will naturally keep it in mind. Unfortunately, my Endless Fire Territory has just been established, so I'm afraid I can't help you." Xiaoyan also noticed the unspeakable hiddenness in Lin Qingwen's words. "Sir, don't get me wrong, the princess sent me here not to threaten the Endless Fire Territory, but the princess hopes that the powerless Fire Territory can stand on the princess's side, which will be of great help to the royal election. After all, the Endless Fire Territory is also dominated by the Xuanling continent in the Btth2 continent, which should not be underestimated. And once the election of the princess is successful, the Star Continent will form an indestructible alliance with the Endless Fire Territory." Lin Qingwen hurriedly explained for fear of Xiaoyan's misunderstanding. "Qinxin has mentioned this to me several times before. Kai Lin heard the words and looked at Xiao Yan with her beautiful eyes, waiting for Xiao Yan's decision. Since that's the case, it's better to hit the sun if you choose a day. Let's set off tomorrow, just to go to the Star Continent, and there are a lot of things to do. After Shun-Chi, Xiao Yan said with a smile. Thank you, sir. Seeing this, Lin Qingwen couldn't help but feel the slightest moisture in his pupils. He was originally from the princess's faction. If he didn't get the support of the Endless Fire Territory this time, I'm afraid there would be a big obstacle to the election of the princess. Once the election fails, these guys will be completely wiped out as a heretic cup without exception. Now that they have come here on behalf of the princess of the Tianxing Continent, they have received the support of the Endless Fire Territory. For them, I am afraid it is a very happy thing. The error-free chapters of Fighting the Sky God of Yan Emperor will continue to be updated on linktonovel.com, and there will be no advertisements on the site. Please collect and share. If you like Yandy of the God of Fighting the Sky, please collect it. The Emperor of the God of Fighting the Sky is the fastest to update. Continuing from the previous episode 1764. After the envoy from Tianxing Continent explained their intentions, Xiao Yan and the others discussed a lot with him. After a long while, the conversation was quite pleasant, and they also had some ideas about the Endless Fire Domain powerhouse going to Tianxing Continent together. The conversation was very pleasant, and in a blink of an eye it was night. Dong dong dong. A rather clear knock on the door sounded. Come in, Lord. Lord Xiao Yan sent me a message. Tomorrow, Lord Xiao Yan will personally accompany you to the Tianxing Continent, but the Endless Fire Territory has just been established, and it cannot carry one soldier and one soldier. I hope you will understand. Go on now. The door closed quietly. What? The Endless Fire Territory will send Lord Xiao Yan alone with us? In the ancient and simple incense room, Lin Qingwen just got the news from the guards in the Endless Fire Territory, and he couldn't help roaring in a low voice. Many concerns. My lord, is this Endless Fire Domain too despised? Just being a domain master of the Endless Fire Domain, what can you do? The other followers in the room were also hot-tempered. Although this group of people is led by Lin Qingwen, but they are quite unconvinced in their hearts, so they have a lot of grievances. Wait, this Xiao Yan, if it's not a first-time scumbag, I'm afraid he is a daring person. After a while, Lin Qingwen suddenly knew something, and said with relief, obviously as a royal family, he has been since childhood. Accepting good training, let him understand a lot of things. Master? The other followers were naturally puzzled and asked in confusion. Now that the election is imminent, even if the Endless Fire Territory sends a coalition army, I am afraid it will not solve the problem. After all, the overall strength of the Endless Fire Territory is not as tyrannical as other forces. And this Xiao Yan is probably also aware of this. However, I have some doubts. How can a 5-star fighting immortal guy solve difficult problems among many princes with his own strength? Lin Qingwen laughed and couldn't help but look forward to it. It's the best way to fight with someone to the death or to the death. There are such good people in the Endless Fire Territory. I am afraid that in the near future, they will be unprecedentedly powerful. After the blink of an eye, Lin Qingwen's eyes couldn't help but become moved. If Xiao Yan can really help their princess to solve the election, then Tianxing Continent will have no reservations. Standing here, or even surrendering to the Endless Fire Domain, is not a bad idea. Lin Qingwen still clearly remembered what the princess said. Although the Endless Fire Territory is a newly established new force, it has the existence of Xiao Yan, and it will grow into a green tree in a short time, and if our Tianxing Continent can survive this catastrophe, we are willing to surrender. Under it. This time, getting the support of Endless Fire Territory is second. As long as Xiao Yan is brought back smoothly, it will be half the battle. This is the princess's original words, because she is also aware of Xiao Yan's ability, not to mention that in the past few decades, Xiao Yan's strength has long since changed. Everyone, rest. This time back to Tianxing Continent, the princess will naturally not be able to treat you badly. Tomorrow we will go back to Tianxing Continent together with Lord Xiao Yan. As soon as the words fell, calm was restored here. In another place, in the Kalen Fragrance Boudoir, the night was quite quiet. Neither Kalen nor Mu Yingying fell asleep. With Xiao Yan added, the three of them slowly leaned into the room, and for a while, it was quiet. I'll leave tomorrow. After a while, Xiao Yan looked at the two women who were silent in front of him, and his heart relaxed immediately, and said in a rather relaxed tone, obviously only in this situation, there would be the feeling of home, but when he thinks that there are still many things on his body, Xiaoyan can't help but feel a sense of pressure. I won't go with you. The endless fire territory still needs a lot of strength to guard it. During the time when you are gone, I will take care of it in an orderly manner. Kaylin shook her head, but Kaylin he didn't tell Xiaoyan that he needed to go to the center of the demon world with the blood of the 10-colored swallowing python in his body, otherwise Xiaoyan would go directly to the demon world with the color scales. I'm not going either. I'll accompany Sister Kaylin to practice here. Mu Yingying on the side said angrily. Mu Yingying also knows that she now has 2 holy flames in her body. In addition, she is a holy flame converted to human beings, and she has a unique advantage, but her strength is too weak to help Xiaoyan. After a period of time to improve himself, when Xiaoyan returns next time, he will definitely find his transformation. Because Mu Yingying knew that although the vase was good, it was bad. Xiaoyan also knew what the 2 girls were thinking, and nodded lightly, so he was silent all night and slept with each other. The next day, when the sun fell on the top of Xuanling Mountain, Xiaoyan and Lin Qingwen were already ready. Let's go. Xiaoyan glanced at the huge mountain range behind him. This is his base, the beginning of the birth of endless fire territory. I don't know if you will hear from Her Majesty Queen Medusa? Lin Qingwen asked softly, smelling a trace of reluctance in Xiaoyan's pupils. No need, let's go. While speaking, a few people left gently, taking advantage of the rising sun. They did not wake up Kaylin and Mu Yingying's 2 daughters and the other high-level officials. Lin Qingwen nodded, so he jumped directly into the space channel and headed towards the Tianxing Continent. The space channel was naturally constructed by the 5-star fighting immortals in the endless fire territory during Xiaoyan's retreat. The space is quite stable, and it has the space coordinates of the original Tianxing Continent. It is indeed quite easy to build. She's gone at this time. At the back door of the manor, looking at Xiaoyan who stepped into the space passage, the figures of Kaylin and Mu Yingying appeared, and Mu Yingying couldn't help feeling a little sad. Road, you girl, it's also suffering you. Helplessly shook his head, and there was a deep meaning in Kaylin's eyes. This guy is going to carry everything by himself, it will be very tiring. This time, Mu Yingying did not have the playfulness of the past, but looked at the place where Xiaoyan left with a serious face, and said in a deep voice. Road. So. At this moment, Rao Yi Kaylin's indifferent personality couldn't help but be surprised. Next time he comes back, I will become stronger. Mu Yingying clenched her slender hands into fists and said. Now, I'm looking forward to it instead. At this moment, Zaidu returned to calm, and the endless fire territory has many strong guards in Kaylin's rule, and it is also more and more powerful. As for Xiaoyan, he slowly moved towards the Tianxing Continent. Go! As for Mu Yingying, Shengyan's transformation into human beings has a rather tyrannical advantage, not to mention there are 2 Shengyan and Fenju. I am afraid that the next time Xiaoyan sees him, his strength will be qualitative. Promote. On the other hand, the Tianxing Continent is also becoming turbulent at this time. On the one hand, because the royal election is imminent, the 3 most powerful candidates are all forming gangs, so that many tyrannical forces are fighting from all over the duty continent. Go to Tianxing Continent. Once the candidates they support win, they will also get enviable rewards, which has also created an unprecedented lively scene in the Star Continent today. At this moment, a new chapter is also completely set sail. The error-free chapters of Fighting the Sky God of Yan Emperor will continue to be updated on linktonovel.com, and there will be no advertisements on the site. Please collect and share. If you like Yandi of the God of Fighting the Sky, please collect it. The Emperor of the God of Fighting the Sky is the fastest to update.